This is Jose's and Franco's Columbian exchange project. Environment. Environment in the Columbian exchange was crops like potatoes and maize being introduced from the Americans to the Europeans, Asians, and Africans. This changed the environment by boosting food production and population growth in those regions. In exchange, the Americans got pigs and horses from the European as livestock. So essentially what happened here within the environment is was called they were trading like their food for livestock, like trying to brighten each other's like horizons on what there was for the environment. It kind of seeing where that goes for their people. Cultural diffusion. An example of cultural diffusion in the Columbian exchange is how foods, ideas, and customs spread between Old World and New World. It is showed by Europeans adopting new foods like tomatoes, chocolate, and corn from the Americans, which became essential in many cultures. So in cultural fusion, what we're seeing is this spread between what is called food from other nations to the next, and how this kind of went into the new world, and people started to adopt all these new foods like the chocolate, the corn. All this was being adopted into places that didn't have it at first, and now they're like seeing this and they're taking it as part of their cultures. So that brings us into culture. The Columbian exchange bled cultures by introducing new foods, animals, and ideas. So a lot of what we already discussed about these kind of where they were like trading, spreading, all this was being introduced to other people, and they kind of exhibited that into their culture. Anyways, these were shared between Old and New World. Indigenous people and the Americans encountered European language, religions, and technologies. So they came across these other people's way of living, the way they spoke, and what kind of like technologies they were using. And in this, they transformed their own societies. At the same time, Europeans' culture absorbed new crops and goods. So we see like that kind of blending into all these new cultures, creating a lasting cultural exchange that reshaped both worlds. So as we see, this helped change everybody in their culture. Social interactions. Social interaction caused disease to spread fast in the Columbian exchange. So through people interacting with each other, the disease from one would spread to the next, and this kind of caused, well, obviously the spread of the disease. But what I'm trying to think of is you could say bad blood, because if you think about it, once you get harmed with a disease by another, are you gonna be particularly happy with that person? No. I feel like that could also happen. It's not discussed about in our thing, but I'm saying that's a possibility. A known example about this is smallpox, brought by Europeans to Americans, causing the population to rapidly decrease. Social interactions also help spread religions to other parts of the world. So, yes, as we've gone on about, spread was caused by interacting, and it was seen that how they spread their ideas of their culture, their ideas of their food, what they use. So this is seen through all social interactions. This is what ties everything together. Because if they don't have those interactions, then how is everything supposed to spread? Technology. Technologies in the Columbian exchange that helped include the magnetic compass, the caravel, and map making. This was important because it helped people bring resources to trade and new ones back in return. An example of this is how much the caravel helped people have a better chance of survival in storms at sea. So basically what this is trying to say is the technologies that were helpful to the Columbian exchange. Because obviously with the caravel, you want to be safe. You don't want to die trying to get to another person out at sea or across lands. This was a chance for better survival. So these technologies helped improve that. The magnetic compass, obviously it would lead you to where you need to go, and you could get there faster and at a shorter distance. Map making, of course, this technology was very important. It still is important to this day because it gives people a sense of direction of where they're going and where to avoid. So it's very helpful. Innovations. The Columbian Exchange sparked innovation, like new farming techniques to grow unfamiliar crops, such as potatoes. But you gotta remember, these potatoes were brought onto by other regions. They weren't like just in originally they were just in one region, but now they're getting spread through this exchange. And so, of course, they would need new technologies because some of these crops aren't used to the same growth style as these ones that are already there. Because those ones that are already there are suited to that, but these may not be suited, so they would need new technologies to help make it more suited. It has also led to the development of global trade, networks connecting continents for the first time. You gotta remember, because these are also being grown in new land with new technologies, it doesn't mean that they would grow into the same crop, because sometimes these will also change. This is why we got different types of potatoes. So these types of trades would just be to spread more of it, and this is why we see foods that are not typically grown in some regions being shown throughout the whole world. Additionally, the introduction of animals like horses revolutionized transportation and labor in the Americans. I don't exactly remember where horses came from in the original trades, but of course this was very important because some people didn't have access to a fast moving animals that could actually transport them. Some required on some required on dogs, some required on cows. I heard about that. But this was basically revolutionizing the way that they could get from point A to point B, because at the time there was very few things that could actually do it that fast. Economics. The Columbian Exchange had an economic impact by connecting different countries through trade. This helped in the other countries discover new crops, getting more food, therefore the population going up. So the way this trade would affect everybody is because you would have all these new things coming in, which they would have all these new things coming in which people haven't seen before. So of course they're gonna be curious. So this would boost the economics because whenever they would buy it, they would either get we know a lot of people would either buy it and some would actually like it, so it would continue to buy it, and this would cause a lot of new people to come in. So this would really help their economy. For example, introducing new crops like potatoes. We already discussed the potatoes and how they were shared throughout, which boosted agriculture, economics, and diets in Europe. Government. The Columbian Exchange changed how the governments worked. For example, when the Spanish government controlled the silver trade for mines in the Americas, this trade made Spain powerful, but it also changed the political system and control of the colonies. So the exchange impacted politics, creating new empires and ways of ruling. So basically, these exchanges caused control to fade and go into new forms, and that's kind of what we see today, because the way that some of these nations are ruled has changed throughout all these years through trades and ideas that were spread. So this is something that we got to think about. Lastly, we have a map of the Columbian Exchange, which shows everything that was traded, like all the crops and things like that. And we see how Northern America was sharing with countries like Europe and Asia, and how Europe and Asia and parts of Africa were spreading what we see as more crops, but they also spread disease because Africa had many diseases, and with the spread of their food, they also spread these diseases, giving them to Northern America and a little bit of Southern America. So we see that through this map.